President Bola Tinubu and past Nigerian heads of state are expected in Daura on Tuesday for the burial of former President Muhammadu Buhari in accordance with Islamic traditions. Buhari passed away in London on Sunday afternoon, and Vice President Kashim Shettima, under President Tinubu's direction, accompanied the remains back to Nigeria. The remains arrived early on Monday morning and were immediately flown to Daura, Katsina State, where the burial is set to take place later. The burial will be in line with Islamic rites, which do not require lengthy ceremonies. While it's unclear which African leader will attend, West African heads of state are expected to arrive for condolence visits, though details will be confirmed as they communicate on Monday. Flags across the country would fly at half-mast for 7 days, as directed by the government, while an emergency Federal Executive Council session has also been scheduled for Tuesday, July 15, 2025, in Buhari's honor. Well, joining us now is former Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Ngige, for a chat on the life and times of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Yeah, thank you, Temitope.
So
good to speak with you.
Yes, and it's good to have you on the program. Let's start with some of your fondest memories of the late Muhammadu Buhari, and what do you think Nigerians will remember him the most for?
Well, fondest memory. There are so many of them. Nigerians don't know that the man Buhari jokes. They don't know he's a bag of humor. He's a humor merchant. For some of us who held meetings with him, even before we formed APC, when he was ANPP, and from NPP to CPC, and then we amalgamated with our party then, SCN, and fragments of ABGA and the NPP to form APC. I like to remember especially the times we were campaigning. The times we were campaigning. I was a campaign director, a deputy campaign director general for Southeast. And we visited all the states in the Southeast with him. We rode in the same bus. And I remember one of the days we were in the bus, we were eating maize. I went down from the bus to buy maize by the roadside and brought it into the bus because we were hungry. As I was distributing to other people, I didn't give him because I felt as a general, the man will not be eating anyhow. So he turned to me and said, "Where's my own maize? Where's my corn?" I gave him. He ate. Another time, Boss Mustafa packed some banana and granite and in the aircraft. He spoke to Boss in Hausa. I didn't know what he was telling him, but Boss later on explained. He said, Boss is eating the banana secretly. That he has also caught him with the back of his eye. That he also has a mouth and things. And everybody burst into laughter. And Boss had to open the bag of banana and granite and gave him. But I had the word jada, so that one I know. So the man is a bag of man. Nigerians should know that this is a patriot. He's a man who loves Nigeria. He's a man who like to serve in anything that will uplift Nigeria. He served in the Petroleum Trust Fund as PTF chairman under Abacha. They tarred a lot of roads. They did a lot of infrastructure. They bought drugs in hospital. The hospitals were no longer consulting rooms. They did a lot. And it was under his chairmanship. They also should remember the man fought a civil war to keep Nigeria warm. Some people, like my people from the Southeast, they will not acknowledge that fact. But he did it. And when we were talking, I told him I fought in the war. And he laughed and he said, "Well, which sector?" I told him the sector, but I didn't stay long, that I had to be discharged. He then recounted the experience of how Gerard Danjuma will always send him to places where the war is thick, knowing fully well that he won't say no. And while other officers were taking leave to go home, he will be there for Gerard Danjuma as their commander. And I'd like to also point out that it is not all that bad when people do sweeping remarks and say that he failed in the economy. I don't know who will have passed in that economy that he inherited. When oil nosedived in production from 2 million barrels per day to 800, from 800 to 500, concomitantly, the prices were sliding. As we were looking at it, it slid from $100 a barrel to 90, from 90, 80, getting down to as low as $40 a barrel, and even at a point 35. And during the period near COVID, oil was being sold for months in Nigeria. We inherited 2 recessions as he came. 2 recessions, due to the fact that in the Niger Delta, people felt that their son, Jonathan, lost the election and that the power has gone out. And so the militants rose up in arms. So he inherited that, but he tried with Oshibajo, who was heading the economic team. We were managing it. Professor Shaibu, Dr. Doyin Salami, I think, was brought in later. And the economy was fragile. And one thing I keep on telling everybody is that this economy we are talking about is like a food pot in the house, a family household. That household, they were cooking 2 tubers of yam 20 years ago. That same 2 tubers of yam, they are still cooking up till now. Whereas the number of people that are sharing from the food, the population of Nigeria, have been growing exponentially from 120, 150 to 200 million now, 230, the same amount of crude oil, or even less, and the same the revenue less. How do you want to make progress? The diversification of the economy was difficult, but he managed and said, let us eat what will grow and stop the importation of food and so many other things so that Nigeria can be great. So it's not all that bad. The PIA bill was done by him, and Petroleum Act, it was done by him. The road infrastructure, he borrowed, yes, but he put them in infrastructure. It was that same borrowing that helped us to finish the rail from Abuja to Kaduna, same from Itape to Warri,
right?
Same from Lagos to Ibadan. And then the road constructions that were going on. So I don't think it's all bad news. Second Niger Bridge was on the paper for long. He made it possible. I went to represent him in the commissioning of the bridge. So what I will advise Nigerians is to support the present government to consolidate the foundation laid in many of the projects by President Buhari.
Right.
Let them choose the good projects, the good things he's done.
Well said.
Consolidate on them.
Well said, Doctor. Let me interrupt for the sake of time. And to speak of some of the more thorny parts of the legacy of Buhari, allow me to dip my toe in there and talk about the fight against Boko Haram being one of his central promises. While it does seem that some of the gains were made, new forms of insecurity such as kidnappings, banditry, and the like have since sprung up after that, farmer-herder conflicts, etc. How would you describe the evolution of the security landscape under Buhari's watch?
Well, if I get you right, I should start from the Boko Haram issue, which was the central thing when he came. When we came, I was a senator before coming. I was in the Senate. Boko Haram were operating in Abuja. They were bombing churches here in Abuja. They were bombing mosques up in the north, up to even north central states of Kogi. They had cells all over the place. They captured 14 local governments in the northeast, so, from Borno into Adamawa and even Yobe. They had 14 local governments and hosted their flags. And part of why some of us supported General Buhari was that he was a retired general, and we felt that he could fight insurgency by the Boko Haram. And on that of Boko Haram, I think he succeeded. He equipped the army, encouraged the government of Shetima at the time to at least employ the youth in Borno and then let Boko Haram not get people to conscript into their fold. The insurgency you saw again of banditry and kidnapping in the southeast, and there are all social malaise that came out of the fact that there was no jobs for teaming youths. There was no entrepreneurship. The funds we had was not enough. So I'm not going to exonerate him, but one thing gave rise to the other. These are things that can be cured from non-kinetic approach. The state governments, they should do something in their states. Governors are receiving more money. In fact, they were receiving money even at that time from him. He bailed them out. Some of them who couldn't pay salary, he bailed them out and gave money to them. Some of them for 5 months, some of them and these are things that should be done. So for me, I think the man tried his best, and we should wish him a happy repose so that he can go meet his maker and then give account of his stewardship. This is not a time for us to start judging whether he has done well in terms of governance. But I know that I was a member of that Federal Executive Council and that this man did his best. Yes, 1 or 2 areas of sleep, the refineries and the rest of them, yes, but overall, we should bid him a good farewell and ask God to take him over and grant his soul eternal rest.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is renowned for being very disciplined and someone that was incorruptible. But some analysts say corruption thrived under his governance, from 2015 to 2023. I would just like you to address this. Why do you think a man who was so upright, who was incorruptible, would actually be the one in charge of what some people have termed one of the most corrupt governments in Nigeria?
Well, I don't want to answer this question directly, no or yes, but I have to tell you what Macbeth said. There's no art to see the mind's construction in the face. I don't know whether Buhari should be a soothsayer to know that Mr. A or Mr. B, who he's employing, will be corrupt later. But all I know is that all cases of proven corruption against officials of government, be they ministers, be they director general or managing directors, he promptly addressed them. In his second coming, 2 ministers were relieved of their appointments over corruption. The Minister of Power and the Minister of Agriculture. He did that. And he's a man who wants to give you the liberty to do your work. He doesn't like to interfere or start goading you. He's not a micromanager. He believes that anybody with a credential that he has seen and who is qualified for a position should be able to discharge the functions of that office creditably and with integrity. So I don't know how to say that he thrived under his watch. The EFCC were working under his watch, and they did some convictions even under his watch. So I don't know how we can extrapolate and give a blanket tarring of his regime as a regime that encouraged corruption. I would say no. I don't think he ever would do that. He has an allergic response to corruption, even as a person. And he has worked and served Nigeria in areas where even the NGO will be tempted to be corrupt, being petroleum minister or commissioner, as they call it at that time, 1975 to 79, 80. It's a tempting job. Military governor, military administrator, and chairman of executive chairman of presidential task force that oversees the money that came out from Abacha's increase in petroleum price, the excess money. There was no corruption over there. And even here as government, he has never interfered with any minister, as far as I know, and say do A or do B, or send somebody to the ministers. No minister, his government can ever attest to that. Even the ministers who manage the big infrastructural departments, ministries, like works, housing, power, transport, these are the infrastructure ministries. None of them will tell you that he ever sent anybody with a note or say, see this man for me. No, not President Buhari. And we're all members of council together.
And just before we let you go, all this talk of opposition candidacy and opposition parties in lieu of 2027. I want to take us back because Buhari actually made history as one of the first opposition candidates to defeat a sitting president in Nigeria, which, you know, looking at 2027, what do you attribute his historic victory to? What did it signal for the future of Nigeria's democracy?
Well, his victory in 2015 over a sitting president, incumbent President Jonathan, is a good lesson for our democracy. I keep on saying it. God allows certain things to happen for a people's own good. That victory deepened democracy in Nigeria. It showed that if you are in opposition and you preach well and you get your games correct, you can defeat an incumbent. Otherwise, people always say, oh, you use power of incumbency to do A or B or C. No, not with that victory. That victory was historic. And we also have to praise President Jonathan for being a statesman, accepting defeat, and behaving like the American presidents at the time would do. They call and congratulate whoever is their opponent, who is removing them. So it's a big thing, and President Buhari himself also shows statesmanship. He shows statesmanship. We brought Jonathan close, and we are like no enmity between them, no love lost. So I think it helped our democracy to grow. Those who want to do coalition today and collusion or whatever, they should learn a lesson from it too. If they get their ass right, the competition will be there. The competition will be there, and democracy thrives in competition. You have to give people alternatives. So it's always good for democracy. You know, that's all I can tell you on that for now.
Well, no, perhaps Perhaps due to his military background, some Nigerians, especially the young ones, believe that the late former president was a detached, aloof and underperforming leader who was blind to the suffering of Nigerians. Some of them have pointed to his blanket statement about Nigerian youths being lazy, despite the high rate of unemployment and economic hardship under his government. Some youths are also recalling his handling or his reaction to the 2020 shooting at the Lekki toll gate. So I'm just wondering, what you would say to some Nigerian youths who are still angry, and bitter about his policies and his actions, while he was president of the country.
My take on this is that anytime it is raised, even in my household, because I have young children, I have young medical doctors, 3 of them. They were in the university. They went to university. I saw them. And so they have friends too. So they come to the house. And I discuss with them. So I know their feeling. Their feeling is not misplaced. I keep on telling some of my colleagues in council and politicians that our generation have not actually lived up to expectation of these young people, because we had the good things of Nigeria. I had a federal government scholarship when I entered the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1973. I had a scholarship. Everybody that has a grade 1 distinction, even some people with grade 1 up to aggregate 20, they were given a federal scholarship. And later on, I moved to East Central State. So it was for me to choose. And I chose East Central State because it gave me extra money. After paying my school fees and the rest of them, I have about 1,200 naira to buy books and play around with, buy food. Food was cheap in the university at the time. The guys of nowadays, the young people of nowadays, all those things are eluding them. By human physiognomy, we believe our children should live better life than us. They should get better things than us. Unfortunately, the world has changed so fast that most countries are struggling, and Nigeria is not an exception. And the youth bulge, that's why I say, and the companions say it, that Nigeria should also control their population. You don't bring out food meant for 150 million people or 120 million people 20 years ago, the same size of food for 230 million persons, 250 million. It's not right. The people will get less. And we need all hands on deck. Diversification of the economy is part of it. Feeding ourselves so that we don't import, part of it. Making our refineries work so that even the little foreign exchange we have, we don't have to do importation. Thanks to Alhaji Aliko Dangote with his refinery. The NNPC people should ask themselves questions. Why are your own refineries not working? And if you blame the government at the center, you also extrapolate and go to the states, because the people are in the states. What are the state governors doing? Right now, as I speak, the allocation has tripled. So what are they doing with it? You have a devalued money that tripled. Have you been able to do the basic things and give things to your people? What prevents them from giving bursary to the students from their states? What prevents them from giving jobs to a lot of people? Doctors, teachers, and others. What prevents them? The states are there, 36 states from FCT, 37. So everything should not be federal government. Even the primary health care that the federal government is doing is not our responsibility per se. It's not. On health. So what are the states doing in that direction? What are they doing in basic education, UBE? That should be the cornerstone of whatever they are doing down there. But they stand aloof and pretend as if the thing is not their responsibility or their concern. Whereas the Constitution makes it mandatory that our people should have welfare. And that welfare rests on the state government and their local governments. They are spelled out in the Constitution of what each person should do. There is a concurrent list, there is an exclusive list, and there is a residual list. So state governors and their people should take care of their people appropriately as per welfare and even protect them. Yes, the president is commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but you can also do your own. The Southwest governors put up a Moteku. There is calm in the Southwest. There's calm in the Southwest. Others should emulate and do their own thing. So, for me, we should continue to beg the youths and ask them to exercise some patience. They should exercise some patience. Well, things will be better. It will not be bad forever. There's always time for uhuru. Uhuru means freedom. So things will get better. I believe so. I believe so. So
Dr. Chris Ngige, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
All the programs.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for sharing the legacy of Buhari with us here on Newsday.